If you were to look at life like a game of poker, you would be safe to say that James Perdue was dealt a bad hand. But like any good gambler knows, you have two choices. You can either fold or you can play the game. Well, James Perdue, he chose to play the game. As you listen to his story today, you're going to be conflicted with your emotions because quite possibly you're going to feel sorry for what he's been through, for what he's had to endure. But at the same time, when you hear the smile in his voice, when you laugh at his jokes, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I can't feel sorry for this guy because this guy is living life. He's making the most out of the hand he was dealt. My friend, this is episode 254, and this is the story of James Perdue. What's up, my friend, and welcome to Grit, Grace, and Inspiration. I am your host, Kevin Lowe. 20 years ago, I awoke from a life-saving surgery only to find that I was left completely blind. And since that day, I've learned a lot about life, a lot about living, and a lot about myself. And here on this podcast, I want to share those insights with you. Because, friend, if you are still searching for your purpose, still trying to understand why, or still left searching for that next right path to take, well, consider this to be your stepping stone to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Do you ever feel like there's got to be more to life than this? Yeah, maybe on the outside, your life looks good, but in reality, you are so unfulfilled with life. You keep thinking that there has got to be something more, that you're meant to be doing more, but you don't know what that is or how to even make it happen. Well, imagine if it was different. Imagine if you got to wake up on Monday morning, full of enthusiasm, so excited for the day, because you are finally living in alignment with your life's purpose. Well, friend, it's possible. And that is why I created Discover Your Purpose, my signature one-on-one coaching session, where we can dive deep into your life's purpose. If you are finally ready to make this the year that you start living out your truest potential, well, it's time that you discover your life's purpose. To learn more, text the word discover to 55444. Again, just text the word discover to 55444. And with that, I hope you enjoy today's episode.
Well, my mom, she divorced before my first birthday with our, I call him just the sperm donor, since I've never heard from him. He never sent a birthday card, nothing like that. He never, even when he was dying on his deathbed, my mom sent word that she would bring the boys up there to meet him before he passed away if he wanted to. And he never even sent word on his deathbed they don't want to see his boys. So I just consider him as my sperm donor that put me where I'm at today. And my mom remarried, and the stepfather is the guy that I consider my father. He would love me when I desperately needed it, and he would bust my butt when I desperately needed it, and to keep me in line, because I was one of them that kind of got into mischief a little bit. I was one of them that believed that I was invincible. You know, I could do a lot of things, and I would overcome it and move forward in life. And yeah, so he was the one that loved me and disciplined me when I needed it and put me where I'm at. And then he ended up dying when I was 16, about 10 or 11 years after marrying my mom. And so my mom, she raised 3 boys, and I guess she did pretty good at it.
Yeah. I love it. Now, when he passed away, when you were just 16, how did that impact your life?
Tell you what, he had about a year and a half, 2 years earlier, he had open heart surgery. And at that time, they said like one side of his heart was like 90% blockage and the other side was like 100% blockage. So they had to go in and do this triple bypass at that time. And he come home, never got to go back to work again. And so for the next year and a half, not that he was sick in bed all the time, he'd get up and go do things, did a little work around the house, but he was told not to overexert because how much blockage was there. But he did the best he could. But finally he went to the hospital, and I remember the doctor calling, and told my mom that there's nothing more they can do for him, that he was retaining fluid in his body and lungs, and said that he could have a year, he could have a month, he could have a week. Said, we just don't know. There's nothing more we can do. So she goes to the hospital to pick him up to bring him home. And while they're waiting on the paperwork, the lunch lady came in for lunch at the hospital. And he told him, said, no, I'm not going to eat lunch here. I'll wait till I get home and eat lunch with my boys. And so, but I'll drink some of his tea. And so he reached to grab the tea. And what he did, dropped dead right there in front of my mother. So,
oh my gosh.
We had to, of course, I was 16 years old, got an older brother, 17. He was a year older than me. And then a younger brother at that time, he'd be about 8 or 9, something like that. And, you know, we all had to grow up fast so we can help mom with everything. Tell you what, when we get in the story one day, we need to get in here and we can do a second program, but we need to talk about how my mom is like a modern day Job with all the stuff she's had to go through.
Yeah.
She's definitely the strongest. And I hope everybody can say that they have a mother, stepmother, somebody that raised them as a female. I hope they can say that's the strongest woman I've ever met. And I can definitely say that with my mom.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that is the case with my family as well, my mom and my grandmothers. I mean,
yes, mom, grandmother, yeah.
We know us men, we would be nowhere without the women in our life. You know,
I tell you what, it's a shame. Hey, I just saw some statistic the other night, a research and everything, that when men get sick, they truly do get sicker than women. So when it used to be the woman's going, oh, I still got to cook supper and got to go do it, whatever, and I got a cold and you're doing nothing. And then the men are laying in bed with their cold, not doing anything. And some research actually come out and said that men actually do get sicker than women and stuff like that. So now then, take that, woman.
Yeah. That is so funny. So that point in your life, back to your childhood, when you said that your stepdad had passed away and you and your brothers really kind of had to become the men of the house and stuff. At what point, though, did sports enter your life? Because I know baseball is a big part of your story.
Big part. Yeah. Actually, I was playing sports, started at 10 years old with baseball, and I actually made a team. My brother, again, was a year older than me, but he wasn't quite athletic. He didn't make a team, but I did. And about a week before the season started, then they cut me. I'm going, what? 10 years old, I didn't know they can cut you anytime they want to. And so they cut me. So the following year, my brother and me had to try out again, and we both made the team this time, a different team. And so I got to play 2 years in Little League, my 11 and 12-year-old league. And one of my greatest stories, and let me go back to my father for a second. He always said, I'll be a great storyteller. He said, because you lie so much around here, son, that you're going to be a great storyteller one day. And he used to call me Jesse James because I got into so much mischief. So,
yes.
Okay. So, but here's one of my better stories is one day we're getting ready to play the number one team in the league. Number one, they hadn't lost a game, 13-0. This is the last game of the season. They beat the crap out of us first time we played them. But I got to pitch a couple of innings, and the best player of the league, Tony Goodall. Hey, Tony Goodall, my buddy, if you ever get to hear this, talking about you again. And so, Tony, he led with most home runs in the league, the highest batting average in the league. He was the best pitcher in the league, undefeated and everything. But I got to pitch an inning or two because we're getting beat so bad. Now, not that at that time I was the hardest thrower, which I wasn't. I probably threw it so slow and that team was so anxious, ready to hit, I probably threw him off a little bit. But I struck old Tony out, and I was one of the first person to strike him out. And I felt good about myself. So the last game of the year, we're playing them. They're 13-0. We're 6-7, I think. 6-7. So we're playing them. And so they decided I was going to pitch the game. And I go, yeah. Well, it rained half the day. And so the coach is calling going, hey, rest up for the arm. But right now they're saying we're still going to play. I said, okay. Then he calls, well, I think they're going to cancel it. Then he calls, said, nope, they said it's still on. And so I'm resting, waiting for the game. But come to find out, our league was the only league in the city that played. All the softball teams canceled. The other across town, Little League, they cancel theirs. So everybody in Gallatin is there watching me pitch against the number one team in the thing, including the team that cut me 2 years earlier. And
Okay.
so I end up, again, I didn't throw hard at that age. So I'm sure I threw slow enough and they're over swinging and everything. But we ended up beating them 4-0. And I pitched a no-hitter against the number one team. And
Wow.
the team that cut me again was going, we should have kept him. We should have kept him. We should have kept him. And I got to strike Tony out again. So I was the only person that struck him out twice. Again, I know it's because I probably threw it so slow and he's up there thinking home run, throw home run, boom. But I got to strike him out twice. So
wow. That is one heck of a story. I love it. I love it. Now, did you continue being a pitcher all through your career in baseball?
Yeah, this Little League team, but I didn't pitch any my first year as 11-year-old, but as a 12-year-old, they wanted people to try out for pitching. So I tried out, and I was left-handed. And so when a left-hander throws, they got that little natural screwball. And so they ended up giving me the opportunity. And so, from the rest of my career, I pitched or played first base or outfield. Yeah, and so, I was one of them growing up wanted to be a professional athlete. Because when my dad died, we weren't what you were called poor, but we were knocking on the door poor. And so, at 16 when he passed away, my mom, if the roof leaked from rain, I'm the one who had to get up on the roof and find it and patch it the best we could because she couldn't afford a roofer. And here in Tennessee, the weather gets kind of nippy a little bit. So if under our house, the pipes froze, and I'm the one at 14 degrees is underneath there trying to find where the pipe is froze to get it thawed out so we have water for the winter. And auto mechanics, everything, she just couldn't afford it, so I had to learn to do all that growing up. My older brother, he wasn't mechanically inclined, so I had to do it. And younger brother, he's too young to do all that. And so I wanted to be this professional athlete. That way I can buy mom this new house, not have to worry about all that going on, buy her a new car, get my brothers new cars. And I even told people, back when I was growing up, they used to have a magazine that you could order and you can get a mail ordered bride. And so I was going to get a mail order groom for my mother. Was my plan. So that was my plan, was to get this professional deal to help the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's say real quick before we continue how much that said about you at a young age, that was your dream, not all yourself, to buy yourself a big house and fancy cars only, but literally that you wanted to take care of your family.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, even give my grandmother something. I've told people, I don't know what I got her because, grandparents, they seem to have everything. But I'm sure I would have got her something. So,
yeah, I love it. So we talked about you being like 11, 12 playing baseball. I assume that you continued then playing baseball all the way up through high school?
High school, I was our most valuable player my junior and senior year. And even today, I'm the only person that's won the MVP 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Usually it's a one and done, and usually it's the seniors that get it. But again, the funny thing is when I got in my junior year, the guy before me was a senior, but his junior year, he got the MVP and he came back as a senior. And so I beat him out. And then, of course, I got it my senior year.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's pretty darn cool.
So, yeah, I'm the only one of that. And of course, I ended up getting a scholarship to go to college. And I was one of them that I had a strong 2.0 GPA to go to college. Now, when I say strong 2.0, I mean, yeah, I just barely got that 2.0. I was one of them that the teachers always said, James, you're smarter than this. You ought to be putting more into it. And I'm going, no, you don't need to do all this when you're playing baseball. And so mom and dad, you're smarter than this. You need to do, well, but you don't need to do all this when you're in baseball. And so I never did put forth what I should have. And I'm one of them nowadays, I wished I would have, so I would be better prepared when I got injured and went to play baseball.
Yes.
To college, because then I had to learn to study all over again because of what I didn't really learn in my high school and middle school years.
Of course. Of course. You know what, man? Something always comes to bite us in the butt later in life, you know?
Oh yeah, and it doesn't it sometimes doesn't have to be a big bite, but yeah, it comes back and lets you know that things could have been a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about leaving town, going away to college. Your college was it far away from home?
Yeah, it was about 2 hours.
Okay.
2 hours, 2.5, something like that. It wasn't real far, but it was far enough I couldn't come home and get mom's home cooking every night. And so I ended up going to what was called back then Martin Methodist. It was a 2-year college, and now they're a 4-year school, but Martin Methodist then. And so I was in college for a whole 2 weeks before I had my injury. When I went to college, I went for 3 reasons. One, to get drafted so I can go to pros so I can, do my thing. And number 2 was to meet all the women I can meet. And number 3, to party. And it didn't matter what order it was. It depended on what time of day it was. If it was noon to 5, well, then my priority was baseball. But if it was 7 to midnight, then it was meeting girls and partying. So depending on time of the day was my priority at that time. And so I was in school for 2 full weeks, and I got to play 1 college game. And I mean, I don't hate telling the story, but I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. But again, I was the only freshman starting. He had all his players from the year before coming back. And so I got to play as the 1 freshman, the only freshman starting, and had a pretty good game. After the game, I remember my mom saying, "Hey, come on home," because we played in Nashville. So we were 40 minutes from home then. She says, "Come on home tonight. I'll cook you a dinner and stuff, spend the night, and I'll drive you back down to college the next day." And I said, "Mom, there's no way I'm going to." I said, "Today was a good day. This is the first step towards our goal to be this professional athlete." And I said, "Mom, nothing can stop us." And then in looking back, hindsight, when I said nothing can stop me, that's kind of like that dude on the Titanic, the captain, the guy, and he says, "Even God himself can't sink this ship." And I tell people, I say, watch how you say can't stop you and stuff. Then I said, but God didn't need to stop the Titanic. He didn't need to stop the ship. The iceberg did it for him. And so,
yes.
So I guess, the very next day, a bunch of people on campus, I say a bunch, we're playing a football game, pickup game, no pads, no helmets, nothing like that. But we were playing tackle.
Okay.
We'd been out there probably 2 hours, and my team got the ball back. And I said, "Hey, I'm done playing for today. We've been out for about 2 hours." I said, "I need to get my stuff ready for class." And then, hindsight, looking back, I'm going, "Get ready for class? You wasn't taking anything for class. You were just showing up just so you. But I said, I need to get things ready for class. So I left the huddle. I got maybe 10 feet away. And then I heard someone say, "We need someone to run the ball." I stop and turn around. Now, Kevin, a little shameless plug here. I said, "I'll come back for one more play," which hint, shameless plug, is the name of my first book, One More Play. And it talks about how growing up like we're talking today, my little memoir. And so they handed the ball off to me. I broke through the line, broke a couple of tackles, scored a touchdown, and I was turning towards everyone. Play's over with, right? So scored a touchdown, play's over. So I'm putting the ball down, turning towards everyone. And on the right side of me, and something in my peripheral vision, I see something. I have no idea what it is. I just see something. And then I feel contact up high by shoulder area. And then I hear a loud pop. And both of us go to the ground. Now, I'm thinking my collarbone broke because he hit me up high on my right side. Again, I was left-handed. And the guys I tackled him. I said, "Yeah," after the play was over with. I said, "Man, I'm going to get up and kick your butt right now." So I didn't use the word butt. And so I figured, again, because I grew up thinking I was invincible, I'll beat this guy with one hand, my left hand. I'm left-handed, my left side didn't get hurt. It was I thought my collarbone broke on my right side. And so I got up and, I tried to get up. And when I lift my head, nothing followed. My shoulders didn't come up. My arms didn't come up. My legs didn't come up. And so I put my head back down. And then the guy that tackled me says, "Well, does your touchdown count?" I said, Man, when I really get up now, I said, asking the dumb question like if it still counts. And tried again to get up. Again, nothing followed. And then I did the old, people say three's a charm. So I put my head down, took a deep breath, tried to get up a third time, nothing followed. And then I knew instantly I was paralyzed.
Wow. 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 How fast everything can change.
Yeah, you hear people say in the blink of an eye. Well,
yep.
In the blink of an eye, in the break of a neck, because the pop I ended up hearing was he broke my neck.
Okay.
And that made the spinal cord injury. And so, and that's how I got paralyzed.
Wow. 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 What happened? Do you remember at that moment? I mean, did everybody start coming over and kind of chaos pursue?
I just remember staring at the sky and the trees where the wind's blowing the leaves up top, because I knew they were going to have to get an ambulance. And you always hear, don't move, you'll make things worse.
Yes.
I couldn't move anyway. So, so we didn't have to worry about that part. But there was one guy there, and I don't know what they called it back in 1983, but he was trying to be a paramedic, EMT, whatever they called them back then. And all of a sudden, he's taking control of everything. He told someone to run to his room, get his pen and paper out, bring a blanket, bring the stethoscope, bring his blood pressure cup. And he's out there before the ambulance even getting there. And then he's telling them my blood pressure and temperature. And he's telling me to be calm. Don't, over. He gave them a bunch of information to give to them before they got there. So I would love to meet him again, but I didn't get his name or anything. But I would love to meet that guy to thank him for that. I'm just laying there. I wasn't knocked unconscious, had pain in my neck, but it wasn't pain. It wasn't pain that made you cry, but it was pain.
Yes.
And so they ended up taking me to the local hospital. Part of my story there is one of my reasons I went to school was to meet these girls. And so I met this one girl a couple of days before all this took place, and she was going to school to be a nurse. And so I'm at the hospital, I'm out in the hallway, they done x-rays and stuff. And this girl, she comes by and she looked at me and says, "Hey, James, how you doing?" I forgot her name now. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm not doing too good." I said, "I'm paralyzed." She says, "What?" I said, "Yeah, my neck's broke." And she goes, "Huh?" And then she looks at the chart and everything. And yep. So one of the reasons I went to meet the girl, and here she was working at the hospital there.
Yeah.
And so she ended up, staying to talk with me a little bit, because then from the local hospital, they transferred me back to Nashville to St. Thomas Hospital.
Okay. Wow. Now, during this time, are you thinking to yourself that this is temporary, or did you know this is serious?
Well, I knew it was serious because, again, I couldn't get up and move at all. So I knew it was serious. But again, I had this invincibility that when they told me, because I remember asking the doctor in Nashville, I said, "How bad is it?" And he said, "Bad enough you'll never walk again, possibly not move anything from your neck down." And I said, "That's pretty damn bad, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah." But again, I had this invincibility. I thought, "Oh, yeah, right. I'll show y'all. I'll be walking." Now, figured my baseball career was over with, but I thought I'll be walking. And so that invincibility kept kicking in to do more and try more from there.
Yeah. Wow, wow, wow. So what ended up being your long-lasting injury? Did you ever regain movement from the neck down?
I had my injury on everybody else's, what they call 9/11, September 11th. Except my 9/11 was in 1983, where the country was 2001. So I own that before they do. All right.
Yes.
Now, not that I'm bragging that anybody's 9/11 is worse than anyone else or not as bad. I'm not comparing, but that was September 11th. I heard on Halloween, I first moved a muscle on my leg. And so I had a nurse come in and feel. I said, "Moving this muscle on my leg." I said, "I can tell you what I'm doing." I said, "Here, I'm going to tighten this muscle up." And I tightened it up. And I said, "Now I'm relaxing it." Tighten it up, relaxing. And she confirmed that I was moving them, yeah. And so I was in the hospital for St. Thomas for 3 months. The same day I was released, they sent me to Birmingham to a rehab that's geared more for spinal cord injuries. And I thought, well, if they're specialties, and I'm already moving my legs, because then I was really moving them, but they're so weak I couldn't stand on them or anything. So I started thinking, oh, shoot, if they're specialists, I'll be walking before I get out of there. And their job, I didn't understand it then because I was young and dumb. We didn't get along as well because I thought we were going to be working on my legs. They were trying to teach me how to dress and in bed and eat and be a quadriplegic and use the chair all the time. And so we didn't quite get along.
Yes.
Years later, I understood what they're doing is because rarely do a spinal cord injury get up and walk again. They may get these movements and things, but to walk efficiently without struggling, it's easier for the wheelchair and learn to do. So,
yes.
But I didn't understand it then. So, but to get to where I'm at, when I got home from there, this home health physical therapy came, and he really did take an interest in with my legs and having me get strong. He even brought in his own homemade parallel bars to put in my living room. And we got where I needed help standing, but once I was standing, and these parallel bars were like 8 or 9 feet, I don't think they were quite 10 feet. So I was able to, after plenty of practice, able to make a trip down, turn around, and come back. And I think I was able to do it 2 or 3 times with parallel bars. My mom and brothers would have to help me stand up. So then I had a friend down the road, his grandmother, and I said, let's go down and see if I can borrow his grandmother's walker, see if I can do anything. It took me half a day because I had forgotten how to stand up.
Yeah.
You know, when you stand up, you lean forward to get your center of gravity over your knees and to help stand. Here I am trying to stand up straight as a board, and I'd make my older brother sit down. So I'd watch him, then I'd say, stand up. Then I'm watching, sit down, do it again. All right, stand up. And so I finally figured out how to stand up on my own. And so eventually we got where I was able to stand up on my own, walk with a walker for about 100 feet, and that was it.
Wow.
About 100 feet. So that's when I tell people, say, you know, the doctor said I'll never walk again. I made a liar out of him for 10 minutes. It's only the 23 hours and 50 minutes he was correct. And but that was good for me to be able to stand and stretch and let blood circulate. And I'm a big boy, so it's easier for me to stand to transfer than to do the other way, just sliding and everything. And so it was great that I had developed that, even though it wasn't fully functional walking.
Yeah. Now, approximately how long was that after your accident?
I was doing that, it was about a year.
Okay.
We would have you know, when that, again, home health therapist came in, Dr. Udot, I remember him. He was probably 150 then. And so, but he's the one that took interest and really helped us. So whenever people come visit, I would make them do exercise with me. That way I can exercise and they could see what we're doing. And we had these arm weights and do these arm exercises. And so we pretty much started our own therapy program from there.
Yeah.
And so it took about a year for me to do that consistently. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, at some point in time, you would end up getting out of the house and going back to college, correct?
Yeah, I figured that with even, you know, it was a wheelchair and I was able to stand and do and everything again, that of course, I've never met anybody with spinal cord injury. I remember going to school and there was one kid that was in a power chair and he had muscular dystrophy. And I remember talking with him while we were in school some, but I never met any other real spinal cord injury, except for JT. Let me go back to JT real quick. When I'm laying on the ground trying to get up after the football hit, after the third time, I started thinking of JT. JT's this fella that my grandfather, when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, we used to go visit him in a nursing home. And one day I went to go visit my grandfather, and about 2 rooms before we got to my grandfather's, I heard this one guy go, "Hey, buddy, come here for a minute." And so I go into the room and I met JT. Well, come to find out, JT, he was in his mid-30s and he'd had a car accident that broke his neck and he was totally paralyzed from the neck down. He asked me to help if I'd hold a cup with a straw in and water so he can get something to drink. So when I'm laying on the thing, I'm thinking, oh, great, I'm going to be in a nurse home the rest of my life like JT at the age of 19. It was my first thought coming towards all this when I realized I was paralyzed. But later on, we did our own physical therapy, Dr. Oda, and everything like that. And so I just decided when things were going good that if I was going to have any life, I need to go back to college and really get my degree. And I'm going, I didn't study that much growing up. And when I first went to college, it was just to get out of the house.
Yes.
Get away from mom, get away from my brothers, get away from them, meet new people, talk to new people, different people. I'd maintain my C average. Okay. Maintain the C average. So then I ended up quitting a couple of years. And again, I'm thinking if you're going to do anything, you got to go out, you got to get something. So there's a vocational training in Tennessee, and I'm sure all the states have a vocational training. And this here is bookkeeping. So I went and took their bookkeeping course and passed and everything. Got certified as a bookkeeper. But then I was going, I don't want to sit there and do all that. And so, but it was good for me that I was able to, I made all A's but one B. And it was good for me to go, well, if you can do this there, you can go past college. You can do better than you're doing with C's. And so when I went back to college, this time was more serious to really graduate. And about, a couple of months beforehand, I was actually working at a travel agency. And one of the people who came in was one of the professors at the local college, is a 2-year school. And she came in and we got to talking, and her name was Dr. Aminette now. She was Miss Aminette then, wasn't a doctor at that time. I said, yeah, I thought about going back to college at Vol State. I said, but I don't want to go do all that paperwork and stuff and try to figure out what's going on. And she says, what? And I said, yeah, thought about it, but I just don't want to get caught up in all that paperwork. And then she says, she knew my name and everything. She said, what's your social security number? I gave it to her. She comes back the very next day, and she had my schedule made up for the next 3 semesters from the spring. I never took a summer class, but if I did these in the summer class and then I do these in the fall, she says, you can graduate in a year. She went and figured out all that for me. And I was going, man, if she did all that for me, I got to at least try. I can't let her waste her time. And so the greatest advice my older brother gave to me, he said, all the determination, all the hard work, everything you put forward in baseball, now this is your time to do the exact same thing with your studies. And so like that. So I decided on my very first semester, I was going to make it as hard as possible. That would be, if I passed all of them, that would be a sign to me that I'm serious about doing this. So I took all these hard classes, and one of them was a science class, and his name was Dr. Bamer. And I heard stories about Dr. Bamer, how tough he was. And I thought that's good, because I want to, if I'm serious about this, if I can pass him, then that tells me I can do the other stuff. And so took the very first test I took with Dr. Bamer, and I get it back, and I'm going, he puts on the board before he passed out the test, see how he did. He puts on the board how many people made A's on the test, and then he put a 0. And I'm going, oh, well, I did study, but I would expect him better, but I'm not an A person. I can understand that. Then he put a B up there, 5 people. I said, oh, only 5. Well, I know I'm not one of the 5. Then he put a C, and he put how many people, and I said, that's probably me, because I did study. And I said, I'm a C guy. And then he put how many D's and how many F's. And so going through, so he passed out the test back to everybody, and I look over next to me, there's this one guy over there, and I see he had failed the test. He didn't see me see his paper. And so he got I'm going, oh man. So I got mine back and looked at it. Well, I'm one of the 5 that made a B.
Woohoo!
So now it's telling me, yeah, you're serious about doing this, and to get this done. And so we go outside of class, and this guy that was sitting that I saw on his paper, he didn't know I saw it. And he asked me, he said, how'd you do on the test? And now I'm feeling about as proud as a peacock. And I go, well, I don't want to brag or anything, but I'm one of the 5 I got a B. like I make B's all the time, and so I'm proud of myself. So yeah, so knowing this guy got the F's, and so then I turned around to him and said, "Hey, buddy, how'd you do?" Well, he didn't tell me how he did, but he did say, "I believe that if you believe in the Lord, He'll provide." And I said, "Well, I mean, smack me if I'm wrong, man, but I believe the Lord's provided these books, so maybe you need to start studying." Like that. Oh boy, he didn't like it. And so I ended up getting a B out of Dr. Bamer's class, and again, it made me realize that I'm capable of doing better in C, but I had to study. For another example, I had this history teacher. For the midterm, it took me 4 days, and I didn't study it. I memorized like 40 pages of information. And that's not studying, it's just memorizing.
Yes.
Okay. So right before the test, midterm, met this girl, and I said, "Hey, how do you get to study?" She says, "I studied about an hour before I got here." I said, "An hour?" And I'm thinking to myself, good luck to you. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I was thinking, because I put 4 days in memorizing. Of course, she said study, right? Study, not memorizing. And so took the test, and we got our midterms back. I got a 94 on mine for memorizing, but it still got me the 94, an A. And so I saw a girl and said, knowing she studied for 1 hour, said, "How'd you do?" She says, "I got a 90. I go, "A 90 for studying for 1 hour?" Like that. And so I started thinking, I got 4 extra points because I memorized for 4 extra days. Like that. And so yeah, that's how I ended up going through college first until I really learned how to study, is just memorizing everything. And it got me through. So tell people that when I graduated high school, I was a 2.0. When I got done with the 2-year degree, I was a 2.6. I'm already 0.6 ahead of high school. Like, then I got my bachelor's degree, and it was a 3.1. So working my way on up. And then I got my master's degree, a 3.9. And I told people, I said, man, the higher the education, the stronger I'm getting. About 15 years later, I finally go back to work on my doctorate degree. A friend of mine was working on his. He said, "James, you need to go get it." I don't need to get it. I don't care to get it. And I was coaching girls basketball and teaching, and I didn't have time. But then there was a position open in high school, and I went to interview for those 2 positions. It was 2 positions, and I didn't get either one of the positions, but my assistant got both of the positions. She got one. She got one and didn't like it, and it was at our hometown where we both grew up, but she didn't like the way the head coach of the varsity, these for 9th grade coaching jobs, that was just interfering in her practice. And she, after about 2 months, she quit and got the other job. And I'm going, man, I've been doing this for 12, 13 years. I've won 8 championships and undefeated, 6 times. And I'm going, how'd she get both of them? And I didn't get either one of them. So after that, I said, "Bruce, what do I need to do to get in that doctor program? Because I'm fed up now. Let's get out of the school system. Let's go do something and teach at college and forget all this." And so I went back to my doctorate, and remember, the grade GPA had gone up and up and up. And so even my doctorate, my master was a 3.9. So I even got a 4.0 with my doctorate. And I said, man, every time I go up a level, man, I get better grades. So, but that's not because I was any smarter or anything. I learned to play the game. That's it. I would tell anybody going into college, going to a trade school, learn to play the game. All right. You don't have to agree with the professor saying, what your teacher's saying, but if this is what they want, you give back to them what they want. Don't argue with them. Don't intercede what you think is the best answer. If they're looking for this, you give it right back to them. So I just had to learn to play the game.
Yeah. Wise words. So I'm curious, James, what made you get into teaching and coaching? What led you to that career path?
One of my big physical therapies for me was my brother. Man, he's just great to get me back on the baseball field as a coach. This way I can still be involved in baseball. I can coach, help the youth become better, not only athletes, better ball players, but better men, out there. To teach them to be respectful, teach them to be whatever. And, I learned when I got into middle school teaching and coaching, and I was coaching girls basketball team, and we'd won a state championship one time. And I had learned, especially then, that these players would do almost anything for their coach, but then they would second guess their own parents. And so the parent would come up to me and say something, and then I say, well, I'll have a little talk with them. And then I go talk to them about how they need to be more respectful to mom and dad, and how you need to be, said, because I'm only going to be your coach for only a couple of years. You got to deal with mom and dad the rest of your life. And you've got to learn to love them and stuff. And I say, you don't have to be eye to eye. And I'm just giving them advice, all I did. But because the coach said so, they were more apt to do that. And then I would tell them, say, now, I know you, like the mother would come say something. I say, I know you have a problem with mom a little bit, but I'm expecting you to go home and tell your mother you love her and give her a big hug. And said, and I will be asking your mom if you did that. And I said, now you don't go tell her, Coach Perdue says I got to do this. No, you don't do that. You do it on your own. Okay. But I will be asking. And sometimes I would ask, sometimes I wouldn't, but yeah, they found it out to be a positive role model, to help them all become better people. Again, keeping me in the loop with baseball. And I ended up learning basketball. I was doing baseball for a while and just kept realizing it's just too darn hard for wheelchairs, especially me being a quadriplegic. I can't push. My brother's having to push me across the field and back and everything. And I was going, man, it's just too hard to be a baseball. And when I got into the middle school, I helped coach the basketball team because the guy that was head coach, him and I went to high school together, and we were both on the baseball team. So I already knew him. And I said, hey, I don't know anything about basketball other than you put the ball in the goal, you get points. And if you hit too hard, you get a foul. Other than that, I don't know anything. I said, maybe I can come on and be your conditioning coach, help them condition before the games and stuff. And he was great, let me come in and help. But the same year, I wanted to be the baseball coach with the high school. And so he was great. He let me come in and help them. But I was going, man, it's just too much work for these people getting me on and off the field. And I said, I've learned once you get into school building, it's all easy for basketball once you get into building. And so I ended up cutting my ties with baseball and spend more time with the basketball, learning. 2 years after I started, the guy that was coaching with me went to high school. He says, hey, man, I'm giving up basketball. It's all yours next year. I said, what? I said, I got to learn more than this. And so another guy that I'd met at school, him and I become co-coaches. No head coach, no assistant. We both respect each other and co-coached. And so we had a run of winning like 7 or 8 championships, like 12, 14 years. We were in the championship game in all of them but 3 times. We didn't win them all in the county, but we ended up playing them. And like I said, we won 1 state championship together. So that, again, it was more for me at the beginning as therapy that I could still do something with the baseball and being out there helping.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Now, were you teaching at the same time or just coaching?
Teaching and coaching.
Okay.
Years later, they passed it where they would let, I know other, like California in that area, you don't have to teach at school. You can coach at schools. And here in Tennessee, you had to teach to be the coach.
Okay.
Now they've passed it where they can have volunteer coaches or paid coaches that don't have to be in the classroom now. And I wish they'd had that, because then I wouldn't have cared about teaching. I just wanted to do the teaching. So for me to be able to coach, I had to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about going back and getting your doctorate degree. From there, did you go teach in college?
No, a lot of, like you said, sometimes life comes around and bites us again. And what had happened is about a year and a half before I went back, again, remember, I was able to stand and transfer and everything like that. And so we're getting ready for the first day of class to go back. And I had my shoes underneath my dresser drawer. Well, I went to pull the shoes out that morning before I went, and I'll go, daggone, there's spider web in there. So I got a rag out and wiped it out, thinking, I mean, I didn't see no spider come running out or anything. I just figured they did their thing and then left. And apparently there was a baby spider in the shoe, and it bit me, brown recluse, on the bottom of my foot. And they ended up getting a sore about the size of a tennis ball, and all that dead tissue on me from where the poison from that bite was in there. So they had to go cut all that dead tissue out. And then now I had to let new skin regrow. And so they told me, don't stand on my foot. It would break the new tissue growing. So after that, the 4 to 6 months of not standing, I lost the strength to stand. So now I need help getting into bed. I can get out of bed. I just couldn't get into bed, to get into the shower and out of the shower, to get in the car, out of the car, because I was used to standing and doing everything. And so now I'm feeling like a burden, that here my families have to come do more work for me. And I was living in my own home independently. They're doing their thing and I'm doing my thing. I'm driving to school, driving to work, driving to stores, and again, doing everything independently. But then after that, I needed help to get dressed because I couldn't stand up to pull my pants up. So they're having to pull up when I'm leaning back and forth and stuff in my chair. And so I felt like a burden to them, and I got pretty real depressed. During that time, though, my younger brother, now he was a functional alcoholic.
Okay.
He drank, but he would do his work. He was an auto mechanic, had his own business. And so he would work all day, then come home and drink, go to work and drink. Well, one day we were noticing that his skin was turning yellow and his eyes yellow, going jaundice. And so got him to go to the hospital, and they kept him in there for about a week. And they finally ended up telling him that if he continued drinking the way he was, they'd give him a 10% chance to live 5 more years. Okay, so he tried cold turkey, quit drinking, and one of his good buddies couldn't drink alone, got my brother back to drinking. And so he says, I couldn't drink alone. So when he was in the hospital again, my younger brother, I remember seeing this guy. I just visited him when I was coming back into the parking garage, and this guy that got him back to drinking, he said, James, you need any help getting in your car? I said, I don't need any help from you, man. He said, I'm afraid you'll kill me. And he, what? I said, you know that Andy was told not to drink because they're going to kill him. And I said, here you are, because you were too insecure. You couldn't do your own thing. You drug him back into it. And he says, well, if I didn't give it to him, someone else is going to. I said, well, then I'd be yelling at them, not you. And I said, and going on, and of course he left and everything. And there's a bunch of people blame this same guy for killing Andy, basically, getting him back into it. Well, but during the time when he was in the hospital, he's a mechanic, vehicles, and he had an ulcer in his stomach and a hernia. And they told him, don't pick up anything heavy so you don't bust a hernia or your ulcer to make things worse. And so one night I couldn't get into bed. So I called him, and Mom brought him out here, and Andy helped me in bed. And that same night he died. And so I've already been depressed that I'm a burden for people because I can't do it by myself now. And here he is helping me in bed because they told him not to pick up anything heavy, help me in bed. He died that same night. So I felt responsible for his death. And I don't know, maybe 5 months later, I attempted suicide. And at that time, again, I was going to school. I was still I was teaching, coaching. At that time, working on my doctoral degree. So all this, and then him feeling death, and then me, him dying, and then me feeling a burden and everything, just come crashing down. So I attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out.
Wow. How cruel life can be sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like our family hadn't been through enough,
Exactly.
And then when I had, this burden onto us. And so, and I tell people, it's a serious thing with suicide. Hey, anybody, if you're going through and you think you're suicidal and you think you think you're going to attempt something, that new number is 988, I think. You just dial 988 or text 988 and you can get someone at suicide hotline that you can talk to and help with. Hey, you don't have to tell them your real name. You can tell them your name is James Perdue, my name, but be honest with your story so they can know how to help you. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's 988. So anybody, you're going through anything, please look for that help. I didn't. Okay. I was so down and out and I didn't care to look, but please, if you're anybody out there listening, 988, you can text it or you can call it and it'll take you straight to them helplines. So what had happened is the first 2 days I took Sudafed and Benadryls thinking it would make me go to sleep and then that'd just be it. Be done with. Took first day 2 packs of Sudafeds, and it says on the package, do not operate heavy machinery, causes drowsiness. And I thought, well, if you take drowsiness on 1 pill, hey, it's really going to drowse me, after you take 48 pills.
Yeah.
And I don't know if God was looking after me, being overweight, whatever. All I did was sleep and wake up with a headache.
Wow. Wow.
And the next day is Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday, and the Giants are playing the undefeated Patriots. The Patriots win, they'll be the second team in history in the NFL to go undefeated. And so I ended up calling that Sunday to Walgreens or Walmart or one of them. Of course, lied to them, and I didn't tell them any other thing other than, hey, got insomnia. I had a hard time sleeping. You got anything I'd take? And they said, yeah, get some Benadryl. I said, okay. So I only had enough money to get 1 pack of Benadryl and took it. All I did was go to sleep and wake up seeing that the Giants had beat the undefeated Patriots.
Wow. So you took the whole box of Benadryl?
Well, I took, like I said, the night before, took 2 packs, 48, is into 24s in a pack. Took 2 packs, 48 pills of Sudafed. And the next day, all I had was enough to buy 1 pack, so it took 24 Benadryls, yeah.
Wow. So what changed, James?
Well, the very next day, of course, now this is on Monday, because that was Super Bowl Sunday. So Monday, over the weekend, I called 5 or 6 teachers I enjoyed working with. So I left messages over the weekend at their work at the school. That way, by the time Monday got here, I'd be dead. Well, I'm still alive because all them pills didn't work with me. And so now 5:30 and 6 in the morning, I'm getting 7 o'clock. I'm getting these phone calls from these teachers because I thank them for being friends and everything like that. And they're worried about me. The principal calls. And so I'm now having to lie to them, say, oh, you're just worrying too much. I'm just taking time off and trying to get my health right. And said, y'all just looking at things wrong way and lying to them and everything. So once I got off the phone with them, I go out in my garage because now I don't have any money to go buy anything else. So I go in my garage in my van and start the van, and I get out of my wheelchair and lay on the van floor so I can suck the carbon monoxide. And I get out of the wheelchair. That way, if I feel bad or sick, I don't leave the van.
Yeah.
So if I'm laying on the floor, I can't get up and go. And so I'm laying there for 2 hours sucking in carbon monoxide. And then all of a sudden the engine starts clattering and going on and off. And because the thing is full of carbon monoxide in the garage, it has to have that regular oxygen to run with those sensors today. And so I'm thinking, oh, great. I said, now I'm not going to die, but I'm going to end up having brain damage from sucking this stuff in. And now it'll be worse on everybody else. So then I just started huffing as hard as I can to get as much as I can in. And next thing I know, somebody had come to visit me and they found me in the van and they had paramedics there and they revived me. And apparently they told them that about 10 more minutes I would have been dead. So they take me to the hospital, put me in the hyperbaric chamber. And I'm in there for like 4 hours where they pushing the carbon monoxide out of my body and oxygen into the body for 4 hours in the hyperbaric chamber. I'm telling you, Kevin, you live through a suicide. Not only do people think you're crazy, they make you see a psychiatrist. So now I got to see a psychiatrist for a while. And, but it ended up being the best thing for me, being with him, that here I can open up to someone that I didn't want to put burden on my mom and older brother about what's going on with Andy dying, and I feel like I killed him, but I can open up to someone stranger that knowing he wasn't going to judge me, he wasn't going. And so I saw him for a year, and he's the one that finally said, James, for whatever reason, God didn't take you. And so you're here to share your story to help inspire other people. And he got me into the public speaking, which eventually got me doing a YouTube channel, which eventually got me doing a podcast, so we can help spread messages of other people, providing hope to other people around the world.
Yeah. Wow. Now, is that what also brought you to write your book?
Yeah, he told me, he said, well, one thing he said, you write your story, this one book, one more play. Of course, when I didn't have the title at that time, but he's the one that told me to write that book. That way, if you don't get to talk to people, people can get your book. And I'm going, I'm not a writer. I don't know. And here's a miracle in itself here, Kevin. It took me 12 years to write that book. Now, should have took me 12 months, but I'd write a page and a half, then I wouldn't touch it for 3 months. Then I'd come back and write half a page and wouldn't touch it for 6 months. And it's a miracle when you upgrade your computer that I didn't lose that manuscript, because if I'd have lost it, I would have never gone back and done it all over again.
Of course.
So finally, I decided, if you're going to, and I had started writing this book beforehand, before all this suicide. And so when he told me I need to get a book out, I was going, I've already started one. Finally, I said, well, if you're going to write it, you need to go ahead and do it now, or just shut up and don't ever do it. And same thing with going back to school. You're going to take the hardest classes, and that's going to be a good test. So same thing on the book. If you're going to do it, do it. If not, shut up and go on and quit talking about it. And so I ended up finally eventually doing it and getting it together, and several friends helped proofread it for me, and we got it out. And from there, yeah. So
yeah,
I tell you,
wow.
There's times when I don't know how everybody's God, or if you want to call it life or whatever else again, but twice. This happened, and it happened, Kevin, a year apart. So you got to remember this to take place. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing at the beginning. I'll give you the Paul Harvey, the rest of the story here in a minute. So about a year apart now, and both of them are like in December, about a year apart. I go, man, my speaking business just ain't getting like I wanted to be. I mean, I've had a couple of things and some things out there, but it hadn't got to be a full-time business. And I'm going, all right, well, I'm tired of just trying on this, so I'm going to quit. I'm going to give it up. Well, that's when it seems like God comes back in again to give you a little kick in the pants to get going again. And I go to the store, Wally World. I take my service dog, Ricardo. Ricardo's the Walmart mascot up there. And so all of a sudden, we're at the checkout, and this other woman had already checked out. She's walking past. She says, hey, there's Ricardo. I said, you met Ricardo? Said, everybody meets him. I said, I can't remember everybody's name. And then she goes, well, ain't he on the front of your book? And I said, well, yeah. She says, well, I've read your book. I said, really? Like that? So then I asked the dumb question, if you don't mind, could you tell me how you got the book? Did someone give it to you? Someone recommend it? You looked up motivational book and it popped up and you looked and said, hey, that looks good. Or you find it laying in a trash can or in a gutter, somewhere. And I said, so we'll stop there. A year later, same thing. Speaking job just ain't going like we do. I'm going to quit and everything, We go to Wally World. Ricardo me there. We went in there 23 seconds. All of a sudden I heard this guy going, Mr. Perdue, Mr. Perdue, Mr. Perdue. And I turned around and I'm thinking, Mr. Perdue, one of my former students, has found me at Walmart. And turned around, I had no idea who the guy is. He said, I just come to let you know I've read your book 4 times. And I'm thinking in my head, crap, you ain't read my book 4 times. And he says, I've read your book 4 times. Your book is going to help me in life. And I said, really? Well, I appreciate you saying that. Again, the same day I'm saying I'm giving up all this stuff because it's not going anywhere. And so now here I'm being stopped twice again, a year apart. So I asked him the dumb question. Well, then about that time, his girlfriend comes in and one of the electric carts, she had her foot in a cast. She said, "Is this him?" He said, "Yeah, this is him." And then she goes, "Boy, I'm so glad my husband found your book." Like, dumb me. Here's my chance. I could have gave him a copy of my book because my book was being sold in Walmart. Just Walmart didn't know it. Okay.
Okay.
Up front, they got those, where you can get your hair cut, where you can get copies made and printed and signs made. Well, that place there that was making signs and printing papers and stuff, they offered to sell my book right there, and they didn't charge me a commission. They just sold and gave me the money. And
oh, wow.
Dumb me, when he was talking that, I should have gone and got him a book and gave it to him. Wasn't thinking. So, but I asked a question to him like I did that girl a year earlier. Hey, if you don't mind, could you tell me how you got the book? Did someone refer it to you? You Google it, it popped up. You find it laying in a trash can down in the gutter. Someone threw it out. And then here's where Paul Harvey would say, and now the rest of the story.
Okay.
Both answers they gave was the exact same answer a year apart. Man, I mean, exact same answer. I was locked up in the county jail, and your book is in the library, in the county jail library.
What?
Yeah, my book is in the county library, jail library. And that's how they found it. So after especially the guy, when he told me that, I go, hey, I guess he did read it 4 times. He had nothing else to do. Now I'm saying it to myself, not to him. And, but yeah, then I'm thinking, man, my book's in the jail library. And I said, that's when I come to realize that we are all helping people. We have no clue who we're helping. I was fortunate enough that God sent those to me when I said I'm quitting everything to let me know that you help them. Okay. But we help so many people out there with our podcast, Kevin, with your podcast, Grit, Grace, and Inspiration, that we're helping so many people out there. We'll never hear from them.
Yes.
But they're going to get something out of these podcasts. They're going to use one little nugget that's going to help them get past a hard time. And so that's when I've come to learn we're not done. Even when I think I'm done, I'm not done. That we're going to do another podcast. And I've written like 10 books now. 5 of them are little children's books about my service dog. And I got about 5 other books. And so, yeah, we're going to be helping people, and we're not going to have a clue on anything, but it's happening.
Yeah. Wow. James, you are such an awesome guy with such an amazing outlook on life that's truly just a breath of fresh air.
Well, I'm telling you again, being on Grit, Grace, and Inspiration with Kevin Lowe, it's been an honor and everything. And I want to grow up and be like you, because I want you on my story, on my podcast with your story. And again, you're definitely going to help other people again, whether you're doing this one. So you're like me now. See, when I started my YouTube channel, I am just trying to give out inspirational information, tell little goofy stories on and overcoming it and things like that. But then when I started my podcast, I'm like you, people are tired of hearing my thing. I want to get out other people's messages.
Yeah,
and that way we can help them get out to help other people as well. And so this is my way, your way of giving to society something that other people are not getting. And so, yeah, I definitely want you on my podcast.
Yeah, well, I would love to do it. I got to ask a question when everybody's wondering, do we have to go to prison to find your book, or can we find it elsewhere?
You do not have to go to prison, and I would recommend not being there. But you can go to Amazon and to find the majority of my books are there with the little children's books. I did them self-published, and so they're all there. The One More Play, though, I had it through a publishing company, and it's actually a Barnes & Noble's website as well. And so from there, so you can go to Amazon and be the big one. And then, hey, if you really want to save some money, because again, when you write these books, I've learned that when you get your royalties, if you're lucky, you'll get $1.80 on the royalties. And so at least you sell 1 million, you're not going to get rich off of it. So I advise people to go to eBay and just look up one more play, and you can find someone that's put it up and you'll get it for $2 instead of paying $20 at the other places.
Okay. Wow. Now you got bargain hunting advice. You got it all, man.
Hey, I tell people, and it's probably only worth $2, so you may want to, so save it. Hey, and I'm serious that I've actually gone back and bought some of them for $2 or $3, and they still look as good as new. And if it's not one that I've signed and gave to someone, then I'll turn around and just give that book away to someone else, and it didn't cost me $2 instead of $18 to get it printed.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the name of your podcast for somebody interested in that?
Podcast is actually named Professor of Perseverance Podcast. Professor of Perseverance. I got to throw a little shout out to man, John Bentley. John Bentley, retirement coming, buddy. I'm proud of you. But John Bentley, one day we were at the speakers workshop one day, and he lives in Alabama, and I'm in Tennessee, and he'd come up for speaking workshops from Alabama. And one day John was behind me, and all of a sudden I heard behind me, Professor of Perseverance. I'm just looking in front of me, not thinking nothing about it. He goes, Professor of Perseverance. I'm still looking for it. I didn't know John was talking to me, and all of a sudden John goes, James. I said, hey, John, how you doing, buddy? He said, you're the Professor of Perseverance. I said, what? He said, you're the Professor of I said, what are you talking about? He said, you got a doctorate degree, right? Yeah. So you're a professor. Okay. And you want to talk about persevering, don't you? So you're the Professor of Perseverance. And I said, John, I'm stealing that. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now, another quick story. I know you got other things you need to get going to, Kevin, but another quick story. Popeye's chicken.
Okay.
Popeye's chicken. One day I was going through where I live, and we got a Popeye's chicken, and it's getting, dark. And I look on their front of their building where there lights up Popeyes right there, and the POP for pop was lit up, but the word eyes, EYES, wasn't lit up, just POP. So I pulled over, took a picture, and I said, look, even Popeye's restaurant is advertising for the Professor of Perseverance.
I love it.
I really need to take that picture and send it to the headquarters and see if they will sponsor some of my podcast.
That's right. I love it, man. James, thank you so much for just lighting up my day, and I can only imagine for everyone listening, lighting up their day as well. You're an amazing man, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here.
Thank you. And I'm going to leave with one more thing, that remember, your past doesn't have a future. How many people go, I can't go do this because 40 days ago, or I can't do this because 10 years ago at a DUI. I can't go this because I got arrested one time. I can't. No, your past doesn't have a future, but you do. All right. Your past doesn't have a future, but you do. So create your future today. Get out from living what used to be, what happened, whatever hindering you, and move forward in life. I don't care if you're going at a snail's pace, and then one day you're going to say, oh, I went 3 steps forward, and man, something happened. Now I feel like I'm 2 steps behind. Oh, that's cool, man. That means you're still 1 step in the good. All right. So just build on that and go. So yeah, just find people to be around with, people positive, people that has their best interest in helping you in life. Okay. And then the great thing about it is you're going to pay it forward. You're going to help somebody else in life. And again, they're going to help somebody else, and you'll never know the sequence and everything. But the good thing about it is we're going to be here to help each other.
Amen to that. James, thank you for being here. For you, my listener, thank you for being here. You know this show is all for you. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, if you got something out of it, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I got to tell somebody about this, we'll do that. Please share today's episode with somebody you love who needs a little encouragement, who needs some of that James Perdue special energy in their life. My name is Kevin Lowe, your host. This is Grit, Grace, and Inspiration. Get out there and take on the day.